Picture this. You're standing on the world's biggest tennis stage. 60,000 eyes watching your every move. Millions more glued to their screens at home. The weight of an entire nation's tennis dreams resting on your shoulders. And then, someone notices your headband is upside down. This is the story of Taylor Fritz, and how one tiny wardrobe detail became the talk of the tennis world in the most embarrassing way possible. But to understand why this moment hit so hard, we need to go back, way back, to where it all began for the kid from California who was destined to carry American tennis on his back. Taylor Harry Fritz was born October 28, 1997, in Rancho Santa Fe, California. The son of Guy Fritz, a former professional tennis player, and Kathy May, a top 10 ranked player in her own right. Tennis wasn't just in his blood. It was his inheritance. Growing up in one of the wealthiest communities in America, Fritz had every advantage money could buy. Private coaches, state-of-the-art facilities, but advantages don't guarantee success. They just make failure hurt more. By age 14, Fritz was already making waves on the junior circuit. Coaches whispered about his natural power, his ability to hit winners from impossible angles, the way he moved like someone twice his experience. This kid could be special. They'd say really special. Okay, but tennis is cruel. It builds you up just to tear you down. And for young Taylor Fritz, the fall would come sooner than anyone expected. In 2015, at just 17 years old, Fritz made a decision that would define his entire career. He turned professional, skipping college, betting everything on a dream that might never come true. The early years were brutal, loss after loss. First-round exits, matches where the scoreline made it look competitive, but anyone watching knew the truth. He wasn't ready. Not even close. Fritz would later describe those early professional years as the darkest period of my life. Imagine being labeled a prodigy. Your entire childhood, only to step onto the professional stage and realize everyone here was a prodigy too. The pressure was suffocating, not just from coaches or sponsors, but from an entire country desperate for the next great American tennis star. Andy Roddick had won the U.S. Open in 2003. Since then, nothing. 0 Grand Slam titles for American men, and here was Taylor Fritz. This tall, lanky kid from California being asked to carry that burden at 19 years old. But Fritz had something most players don't. Stubbornness. The kind of grinding, relentless stubbornness that turns good players into great ones. Instead of quitting, he doubled down. Harder training, better nutrition, mental coaches, sports psychologists. Slowly, painfully, Fritz began to climb. His first ATP title came in 2019 at Eastbourne, a small tournament most tennis fans couldn't locate on a map, but for Fritz, it might as well have been Wimbledon. He collapsed on the court after match point. Not from exhaustion, from relief. "I actually did it," he whispered to himself. "I'm actually a professional tennis player." But success in tennis is measured in Grand Slams, and Fritz's Grand Slam record was ... complicated. French Open after French Open, he'd crash out early. Wimbledon became his personal nightmare. The Australian Open felt cursed. But the U.S. Open? That was different. Playing at home with American crowds screaming his name, Fritz came alive. In 2022, he reached his first Grand Slam quarterfinal at Flushing Meadows. The entire country took notice. Fritz could be the one ESPN analysts declared. He could finally break the drought. The pressure was intoxicating and terrifying in equal measure. Meanwhile, Fritz's personal life was becoming tabloid fodder. His relationship with fellow tennis player Raquel Pedraza had produced a son, Jordan. But the demands of professional tennis are merciless. Constant travel. Month-long tournaments. The relationship crumbled under the weight of two careers pulling in different directions, Fritz later admitted. Trying to balance being a father and chasing my tennis dreams. I wasn't good at either for a while. The custody battles were messy. The media attention was relentless. And through it all, Fritz had to keep showing up, keep competing, keep smiling for cameras while his personal world fell apart. By 2023, Fritz had established himself as America's best hope, ranked in the top 10. Consistent deep runs in big tournaments. Brand partnerships with Hugo Boss worth millions of dollars. Finally, the success everyone had predicted was becoming reality. But there was one problem. One giant, Serbian-shaped problem named Novak Djokovic. Fritz and Djokovic had faced each other 10 times. The record? Djokovic 10, Fritz 0. It wasn't even close. Djokovic had turned beating Taylor Fritz into an art form. I can't buy a game against this guy, Fritz confided to friends. It's like he knows what I'm thinking before I think it. The losses weren't just defeats, they were psychological. Warfare. Djokovic had a way of making opponents feel small. Not through trash talk or gamesmanship, but through pure, suffocating excellence. And so we arrive at September 3, 2025. The U.S. Open quarterfinals. Arthur Ashe Stadium packed to capacity. Fritz, the last American man standing, facing his tennis nemesis under the brightest lights in the sport. The build-up was electric. American sports media treated it like the Super Bowl. Can Fritz finally slay his dragon? ESPN asked. Is this the moment American tennis has been waiting for? Fritz felt the weight of it all. The expectations, the history, the knowledge that another loss to Djokovic might define him forever as the player who couldn't get over the hump. He arrived at Arthur Ashe Stadium that evening wearing all black. Hugo Boss attire. The brand paid him $7 million annually to look perfect. On tennis's biggest stages, every detail mattered. Every logo placement was strategic, except for one tiny detail Fritz missed in his pre-match routine. His headband was upside down. Instead of proudly displaying Boss across his forehead, it read SSOB, a nonsensical jumble of letters that made him look like he'd gotten dressed in the dark. At first, nobody noticed. Fritz walked onto the court, the crowd roaring. Djokovic acknowledged him with a nod. The chair umpire called for the coin toss, but then the cameras zoomed in for the traditional pre-match close-ups. And eagle-eyed viewers at home began to notice something was ... off. Wait, one Twitter user posted, Fritz's headband upside down. Within minutes, social media exploded. Screenshots flooded Instagram. Memes spread across TikTok. The tennis world had found its new obsession. SSOB Fritz became an instant trending topic. Hugo Boss executives watching from their corporate boxes probably felt their blood pressure spike. But Fritz, locked in his pre-match bubble, had no idea. He was too focused on the task at hand, determined to finally beat the man who had become his personal kryptonite. The match began. Fritz came out aggressive, trying to dictate play from the first point. His serve was bombing. His forehand was crushing. For brief moments, it looked like this might finally be his breakthrough. But Djokovic is Djokovic for a reason. Slowly, methodically, he began to solve the Fritz puzzle. Again, as the match wore on, the upside-down headband became more than just a wardrobe malfunction. It became symbolic, a perfect metaphor for Fritz's entire relationship with Djokovic. No matter how prepared he was, no matter how well he played, something always went wrong. By the third set, even the television commentators couldn't ignore it. I hate to mention this during such an important match, one broadcaster said, barely containing his laughter. But has anyone else noticed Taylor's headband situation? The camera operators, now fully aware of the viral moment they were capturing, made sure to include plenty of close-ups. Each zoom in on Fritz's confused SSOB logo generated fresh waves of social media commentary. Fritz fought valiantly. He took the third set, giving American fans hope. But in the fourth set, with the match on the line, his serve deserted him. Double fault after double fault. The pressure finally breaking through his mental armor. Djokovic won 6-2-4. 7-2-5, 3-2-6, 6-4. Another victory over Fritz. Another heartbreak for American tennis fans, as Fritz walked to the net for the customary post-match handshake. Someone from his team finally managed to signal him about the headband. You could see the exact moment he realized. His eyes widened. His shoulders dropped. A mixture of embarrassment and disbelief washed over his face. In the locker room afterward, Fritz finally checked his phone. Hundreds of messages, thousands of mentions. The entire tennis world was talking about his wardrobe malfunction. But here's where the story gets interesting. Instead of hiding from the embarrassment, Fritz embraced it. He posted on Instagram, along with a photo of his upside-down headband. At least I gave you all something to remember, besides another loss to Novak. The post went viral immediately. Suddenly, Fritz wasn't just the guy who couldn't beat Djokovic. He was the guy who could laugh at himself, who could find humor in his own misfortune. Hugo Boss initially panicked about their $7 million investment becoming a meme, quickly pivoted. Within hours, they were selling SSOB merchandise. Limited edition, upside-down headbands. The wardrobe malfunction had accidentally created a marketing goldmine. Nick Kyrgios, never one to miss an opportunity for attention, tweeted, "Fritz, if you wear the headband right side up next time, maybe you'll finally beat Novak. Just saying." Even Djokovic joined in, posting a photo of himself wearing a Fritz headband, correctly. Much respect to Taylor. His caption read, "Next time, check the mirror first." The tennis world had found something rare. A moment of genuine, unguarded humanity in a sport often criticized for being too serious, too polished. Fritz's upside-down headband reminded everyone that these athletes are human beings. They make mistakes. They have embarrassing moments, just like the rest of us. But perhaps the most telling reaction came from Fritz himself during his post-match press conference. When asked about the headband, he didn't deflect or make excuses. "You know what?" he said, grinning despite the loss. "Maybe wearing it upside down was good luck. I actually took a set off Novak for once." The room erupted in laughter. Here was Fritz, having just suffered his 11th consecutive loss to his greatest rival, finding a way to make light of his situation. It was pure class. In the days that followed, the wardrobe malfunction took on a life of its own. Sports websites dedicated entire articles to analyzing Fritz's SSOB moment. Fashion blogs debated whether upside-down accessories would become a trend. Even late-night talk show hosts worked it into their monologues. But for Fritz, the moment represented something deeper. It was a reminder that perfection is impossible. That sometimes the moments we remember aren't the victories or defeats, but the beautifully human mistakes in between. Looking back on his career, Fritz has achieved remarkable things. Multiple ATP titles, consistent top 10 rankings, millions in prize money. He's already surpassed the vast majority of professional tennis players, yet he'll probably be remembered as much for wearing his headband upside down as for any match he's ever won. And maybe that's not such a bad thing. In a world obsessed with image and perfection, Fritz's wardrobe malfunction reminded us that authenticity trumps polish every time. That the athletes we connect with most aren't the flawless ones, but the ones who show us their humanity. The kid from Rancho Santa Fe, who was supposed to save American tennis, didn't quite manage that. He's still chasing his first Grand Slam title, still looking for that breakthrough moment that will define his legacy. But he did give us something equally valuable. He gave us a moment of pure, unfiltered human connection. A reminder that behind all the sponsorship deals and media training and corporate polish, athletes are just people trying their best. Sometimes they wear their headbands upside down. Sometimes they lose to the same opponent 11 times in a row. Sometimes they become internet memes despite themselves. And sometimes that's exactly what the world needs to see. Fritz's journey isn't over. He's still young, still improving, still chasing that elusive Grand Slam breakthrough. Who knows? Maybe the next time he faces Djokovic, he'll remember to check his reflection before stepping onto the court. Or maybe he'll deliberately wear his headband upside down again. After all, it got more attention than any of his victories ever did. The story of Taylor, Fritz, and his upside-down headband isn't really about tennis. It's about perfection and imperfection. It's about pressure and humanity. About finding light in embarrassing moments and turning mistakes into connections. In a sport where millimeters determine winners and losers, where every detail is scrutinized and every mistake magnified, Fritz's wardrobe malfunction was a beautiful reminder that sometimes the best moments are the unplanned ones, the ones that make us all a little more human. So the next time you're getting dressed for something important, take a moment to check your reflection. Make sure your headband is right side up. Your logos are facing the right direction. Your image is perfectly polished, but if you happen to get it wrong, if you find yourself with your own SSOB moment, remember Taylor Fritz. Remember that sometimes our mistakes connect us more deeply with others than our successes ever could. Sometimes, being perfectly imperfect is exactly what the world needs to see. What do you think about Fritz's wardrobe malfunction? Was it the most embarrassing moment in recent tennis history, or just a refreshingly human mistake? Let us know in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe for more stories from the world of sports that remind us athletes are human too.